The New South Wales Treasurer Daniel Mookhey is warning Sydney could become like San Francisco if proper action isn't taken on housing supply and affordability. He believes the next decade will be critical for ensuring the city isn't faced with a market where only those with money from their family can afford to buy a home. The social cohesion and livability of Sydney is dependent on responding to the housing crisis, he says, and he's citing growing housing and wealth disparity in cities in the northwestern United States, particularly San Francisco. Mr. Mookhey is stressing the need to balance planning protections with increasing housing supply after growing opposition to rezoning laws for high-rise development. Joining me live now is the New South Wales Opposition Leader, Speakman. Mark, thanks so much for your time. If you've been to San Francisco at all in the last couple of years, you'd know that that proposition put by the Treasurer is a pretty terrifying one.
Well, look, that is a terrifying proposition. I agree with Daniel Mookhey's diagnosis that we do have a housing crisis in New South Wales and Australia, and we're facing the situation where how much your parents have in terms of assets or your grandparents will determine whether you'll ever be able to enter the Sydney housing market, rather than how hard you work or what your education is. So that is unacceptable on many levels. What I don't agree with is the way the government is handling trying to solve this crisis with a one-size-fits-all that involves pushing communities aside and not bringing them on board. Now, Daniel Mookhey this morning told the Sydney Morning Herald we need a lot of goodwill, we want to make sure that there's a balance, there's not a polarised debate. The problem is, though, that the government is forging ahead with massive rezonings without giving local councils, local communities through their councils, the opportunity to have a say in what their suburbs are going to look like.
But if you don't do that, if you don't rezone, if you don't seek higher density in areas closer to the CBD, where do you build all these new homes?
Sure, look, higher density has to be part of the solution, and doing it where there is excellent public transport or good public transport has to be part of that solution as well. But you've got to bring local communities on board. At the end of the day, you can't let particular councils lock people out altogether. Every area of Sydney has to contribute its fair share to increasing housing supply, but you've got to give opportunity and a chance to local communities through their councils to have a say, because this can dramatically change the face of their suburbs, and that just isn't happening at the moment. What you also have to do is identify what is the extra infrastructure you're going to build to make sure you can support this increased density. And at the moment, we haven't heard a peep out of the government about what extra infrastructure it's going to build. What are the new schools? What are the new hospitals? What are the increased train services that will support this increased population? So it's pretty one-sided at the moment.
Well, Mark, as a rule, would you rather go out, move further into the suburbs with better infrastructure and transport, or do you think the solution is to go up closer to the CBD?
Well, I think you've got to have a mix of both. A lot of people would still prefer to be in a detached family home, but we know that it is cheaper, less expensive, more productive to have people closer to the city along major public transport routes.
Sorry, I'll let you get that out of the way. I think one of the big problems as well that is not being spoken about enough is the capacity for us to actually build these new homes with the workforce. I mean, last week the front page of the Daily Telegraph was, all these construction firms going broke each and every week. No one seems to be talking about that.
Well, part of the problem is the cost of construction. It's not just, you can have as much rezoning as you want, but if it's too expensive to build, people won't build and buy. And we've seen the cost of construction, the cost of building materials has gone up 1/3 since the pandemic. Now, part of the problem too are skills shortages. Part of the problem too is the demand that excessive immigration has placed on housing prices and on rents. We have been out there calling on the Albanese government to cut back on immigration. Chris Means has been silent on that until he actually supported high rates of immigration. But not only do you have to cut back excessive immigration, you've got to make sure that the composition of immigration is right. And we don't think the Albanese government is still doing enough to make sure that we're bringing in enough carpenters and electricians and plumbers where there are significant skill shortages.
Mark Speakman, I have that same lingering cough, so I feel your pain right now. We're going to leave it there for today, but we speak regularly, so looking forward to doing that again next time.